Some days you just feel like the spiritual atmosphere is a kind of weird, a kind of strange. It feels like your prayer cannot break through, something like a fog hovering over your head. And for me, I have always experienced this kind of feeling. And later I realized it's because there are some kind of spiritual warfare happening in the second heaven. And it's always related to elections and by-elections on the world. So yesterday I felt this strange feeling again. And honestly speaking, these days I'm in constant mode of feeling good and feeling bad. Because of the war happening in Iran, you can feel it. You can also see it. See the tension between US and European countries through the news. So yesterday, it was a dark day for Canada. The Conservative Party lost by election, and we need to continue to pray for Canada. In this video, I would like to share something God revealed to me from the year 2025, and I also want to share some of my burdens in prayer about European countries. And I would like to show you from a map. Now you can see a world map. I like to say the most intensive spiritual warfare in 2025 is the war between Ukraine and Russia. And spiritually, it feels like there are many cycles regarding to this war. There are many times Ukraine, Russia, and United States hold the peace talk or negotiation about this war, and several times it was the moment spiritual atmosphere is the most intensive because the demonic forces don't want these people to have peace talk. And several times you can see from the news, whenever there is peace talk, there is protests happening in the United States against President Trump. So the demonic forces have its evil scheme, evil strategy to stop the peace talk. But I feel like after each cycle in the spiritual realm, Ukraine is getting stronger and stronger, and Russia is getting weaker and weaker. So basically, I think the most hard season for Ukraine has passed. I feel like this winter is a turning point for Ukraine and also for me as a prayer person who always need to pour out my love and spiritual energy to pray and intercede. Because this winter has passed, and you can see from this March that Ukraine started to gain back their land. So during the process, I prayed for Ukraine. God did so many things related to European countries and United Kingdom. I like to say we won some wars, but we also lost some spiritual warfare. And I also found that there are so many problems relating to European countries. Actually, many pastors have warned about European countries long time ago, long before the war broke out between Ukraine and Russia. They said that spiritually European countries are declining and it feels hollow. It feels that people just leave their faith, and so many evil spirits have come inside this land, this continent. Because I didn't care that much about European countries before I prayed for Ukraine and Russia, and when I start to pray for it, I can feel that the problem is really serious. But I like to say that basically European countries and United States, they are in a recovering process, restoring process led by God. United States of America is recovering and reviving after President Trump came into power in 2024. So we can see so many good news about revival in United States. But in Europe countries, I feel like it's a little hard. Especially when I pray for United Kingdom, I like to say what I saw in 2025 is we lost several spiritual warfare relating to election. Canada now is left people that come to power. United Kingdom, it didn't happen in 2025, but still left people that are in power. France left, Spain left. Also, if you care about South Korea is also left people. So South Korea is also in a very dangerous situation here, South Korea. And it all happened in 2025. Also, in 2025, Ireland. I remember so clearly. At that election day, I felt a strong spirit of communism in Ireland. Also, Netherlands. Now it's left people, and he is also a homosexual person. So Netherlands is in great danger. And I'm thankful for Finland and Germany. I feel like the Western Europe is in worse situation than the East. The East European countries are protecting their Christian heritages, and they are very much alive spiritually. So basically, we have many left governments governing this continent. So spiritually, it feels like this continent is half governed by godly spirits and demonic forces. I remember I prayed several times, very intensive spiritual warfare in United Kingdom about reviving Christianity. However, almost immediately after a small breakthrough relating the Christianity revival, the Islamic spirits fight back. And you can see the serious tension. So we need to pay a lot of attention to these countries. And I think the current tension, you can feel that, you can see that from the news between European continent and United States regarding to the war in Iran. The root problem is because of those left governments like France, like Spain. So, and I would like to also emphasize the reformation needed for Catholic churches. So Trump yesterday posted something related to Pope Leo in Catholic Church. I think the tension is that Catholic Church, they lack some spiritual understanding about the importance of Israel. So we know that in Orthodox churches and in Catholic churches, they tend to interpret scriptures in a very spiritual way, but they failed to understand the importance and the plan of God for Israel. For example, in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, we know that if you are familiar with those word of God, so there came a woman who fought with this red dragon, and red dragon is Satan. The woman is Israel. But in Catholic churches, they interpret woman as Mary, and it somehow also led to the idol worship of Mary. But they just failed to understand the importance of Israel. So these countries, European countries, are most Catholic. They believe in Catholic. They believe in the teachings in the Catholic churches. So they're not quite friendly with Israel. And when this war in Iran broke out, evangelical Christians can understand it from a perspective of spiritual warfare. So we are dealing with the Prince of Persia described in the book of Daniel. And we are also dealing with that spirit of Haman in the book of Esther. However, you can see from the speech of Pope Leo, he seems that don't have this kind of biblical knowledge to understand is a spiritual warfare. So he is like just promote peace talks And several leaders in European countries just follow this kind of thought, like France, Germany, Spain, and some of them even condemn Israel for attacking Lebanon, Hezbollah, and also United Kingdom. So because of this lack of understanding of truth of the spiritual world, the people just had wrong judgment or failed to understand what God is doing now through President Trump and Bibi in Israel. Okay, so this is my concern and my burden for European country leaders, and I'm praying that there can be a reformation in Catholic churches. If you pay attention to media now, I think what feels like strife, what feels like confrontation between Trump and Pope Leo. And some may also remember that yesterday, several days earlier, Trump said he would like to leave NATO. So all of these tensions had their spiritual background. We need to pray for reformation in the Catholic churches. And we also need to pray for European leaders. Now I think there is some kind of twisting of fact and truth in many European leaders. Like France, like United Kingdom, Germany, Spain, they just blame Israel. And because of the increasing oil prices, they are blaming Trump for the war in Iran. But honestly speaking, for a long time, Europeans are kind of being awkward, being so sleepy. They just compromised the evil regime in Iran and failed to stand up for Iranian people to fight for freedom. They just tried to appease the evil regime, and they did nothing to help Iranian people or even help people in their own countries to combat Islam. So I don't think they can follow up of what God is doing now in Iran. I think God will deal with those European leaders, and we need to pray for them. I think the will of God in Iran is after this evil regime is totally removed, Iran can have a great revival, and God will use Christians in Iran and also in UAE to spread the gospel and open more doors for Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia, who just don't give religious freedom for Christianity. So this war in Iran, what is happening now in Iran, is really important. And I do think that Europeans need a time to grow up, to stand shoulder in shoulder with President Trump, just as Trump with Bibi in Israel. So that in the near future, God may use these powers together to fight another red dragon in Central Asia. If European leaders cannot grow up and follow, it will be very hard to have a big harvest, big revival for countries in Central Asia and also in Middle East. So basically, I think spiritually we feel very stuck here because of what these European leaders are talking about, are thinking about. And for me, I really feel quite disappointed because of some European leaders. And spiritually, we also need to pray for revival in European countries. Yesterday, I did a research about France, the left wing and the right wing. So for people who are praying for revival, you always pay attention to big cities, because big cities, for example, in France, Paris is quite left, and the left wing just occupied big cities like Paris. That's why the right wing cannot come into power. And the same situation is in, I think in Germany, in United States, Berlin is quite left. They have so many left professionals to promote the left agenda. And United Kingdom, London is very left and is very much occupied by Islam. In United States, New York is in the same situation. We had a Muslim and a communist leader in New York. and we need to take this land back. We need to pray that these big cities can surrender to God. And I think this kind of prayer burden, this kind of prayer topic will be very important for us in the year 2026 and 2027. If these things cannot be changed, we cannot have a future for great revival in Central Asia and in Middle East countries. We need to conquer them, take them back. And honestly speaking, I'm really grateful for what God has done through President Trump, for many Latin America countries like Venezuela and Colombia. Several countries here in this land has turned from left to right. And it just opened a way for bigger spiritual revival. More revivalists, Christian revivalists, evangelical revivalists can come to their land to hold massive revival events. And it's quite encouraging for Christians. Okay, I hope that this video can reach out to people who need to listen to this and people who have the same burden to pray for these things. May God bless you.